Hey, welcome. It's Alexander Creek, Astrologer Intuitive, otherwise known as Dr. Oracle. We are going to be talking about some really major astrology. We're going to be talking about the solar eclipse in Aquarius, Saturn going into Aries, Saturn conjunct Neptune. Each of these on their own would be very significant. We have all three this month. Plus, we have a Mercury retrograde. So we have a lot to cover in this video. We'll be talking about the general astrology for the collective, as well as a reading for your rising sign. So before we get to it, make sure if you're watching me on YouTube, make sure that you're subscribed to the channel. If you're liking my vibe, you have those notifications turned on. Leave me a comment, like the video, all of that stuff. If you're listening to the audio podcast, please leave a 5-star review. And also, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Let's go ahead and talk about it. Okay, so we have a lot to cover. I am going to start with Saturn and Aries first. Saturn is the planet of, doing your homework, like not taking the easy way out, the planet of elders and hard, won wisdom. And it also can represent like tests, lessons, limitations, and delays. Where you have Aries in your birth chart, Saturn moving into that part of your chart speaks to an area where here's where the work is. Definitely, here's where we're going to be kind of focusing our energy, where we can't take the easy way out, where there's going to be some additional kind of lessons for us, essentially. And Saturn, Saturn is not. That's not necessarily just like a bad thing, but it is going to require a little extra work or being aware of our own kind of limitations sometimes. And, maybe feeling like things aren't moving fast enough. But if you put in the work, and if you're, listening to clues from the universe, you can sort of like the harvest that it could yield could be very productive and very fruitful. I kind of think of 7 and 8 of Pentacles, where someone is like waiting on their harvest in 7 of Pentacles, and in 8 of Pentacles, you have this feeling of hard work, of someone sort of at work on their craft, right? So we'll talk about what that means for your rising sign with Saturn in Aries, because it's going to be parked there for the next 2.5 years. Generally speaking, Saturn in Aries is interesting because Aries is the sign of Saturn's fall, meaning, Saturn is just kind of uncomfortable and awkward in the sign of Aries. Aries, generally speaking, is a sign that is impulsive, wants to go now, just do it, independent, very pioneering energy, very kind of youthful energy. And so Saturn being in this sign is a very kind of awkward fit, right? So that can kind of mean that, like, the established, the status quo, the leaders in our world that kind of have shown the way might be, we really kind of might be entering a period where we might be seeing a lot more fresh new blood, as far as people who are leading us, people who are in charge, or something like, like leaders might have a more sort of challenging time, kind of like in the collective, especially because Saturn will be conjunct Neptune on the 20th of this month. And Neptune is the planet of dissolving. It's also spirituality and like enlightenment. But when Saturn and Neptune get together, it's like the structures that we have relied on in our world, things that have been around a long time, things that we thought would stand the test of time, just go away. An example of this would be the Berlin Wall in 1989. There was a Saturn-Neptune conjunction around that time, and this major force in the world is gone overnight at a very kind of rapid pace. And especially because Saturn will be conjunct Neptune at 0 degrees of Aries on February 20th. And we will feel the effects of that aspect for months and years to come. So the energy that has been building up to this point, all of these protests, the feeling that our world is kind of collapsing. A lot of things in our world are collapsing. I'm not saying that the world is ending, because a lot of things in our world did need to collapse. A lot of the rot needed to be purged. And I think the astrology of this time in February and March is really saying, like, it can look a lot like destabilization and some societal structures collapsing. However, it probably has never been a better time to do your own thing and blaze your own trail. Saturn in Aries, for Saturn being in its fall, right? It's not about like following someone else's vision or running your life in a way if you can be comfortable outside your comfort zone, I think you can thrive in these times, essentially. Maybe it's never been a better time to be an entrepreneur or to do your own thing or to just live your life and blaze your own trail the way that you want to. That's kind of what Saturn in Aries is saying, is like, it's like once you are sort of attuning yourself to your own vision, this is time for, I think, that those of us can really kind of thrive. But yeah, we're really kind of going into, I think, a really big societal changes. I went more into detail about this with some friends and colleagues of mine on William Holloway's podcast Orbitals, and we talked about the astrology of 2026. So we definitely go more in detail about Saturn and Aries there. But yeah, very, very pivotal month, especially because we are also going into eclipse season. So by the way, Saturn in Aries is going to be in Aries until mid-April 2028, just to kind of give you that date. So a couple days later, we have a solar eclipse in the sign of Aquarius. And eclipse time is always a pretty intense time. Eclipses are really potent new and full moons. They're a bit more chaotic than a regular new and full moon. They have kind of a more faded like charge to them. And eclipses tend to interrupt the rhythm and flow of our daily lives, essentially. Even like a regular old solar or lunar eclipse, when there isn't all this other significant astrology going on, because like we're going into like a new age, like a new era with Saturn going into Aries in the Saturn-Neptune conjunction that we are having. But also the eclipses at the same time, I just think add this kind of a wild card factor and a little bit of chaotic energy. I think it's going to be really important for people to have your own self-healing routine, your own spiritual hygiene, your own self-care, whatever that looks like to you, however you feel grounded and connected to your body, however you feel. And also I would add too, being connected to your local community, talking to your neighbors, being connected to friends and your kind of friends and family in your immediate, local community and stuff, also going to be really important too. Especially just kind of as we go through the next couple weeks, because the next couple weeks certainly feel like this very kind of intense portal of energy. And you guys know that like, I don't come on here and I try not to be hyperbolic and make these claims that like, oh my God, everything is changing and you're transforming and blah, 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 blah. But like, I'm telling you guys, 2026 is a very transformative year. So getting back to these eclipses, we have a solar eclipse in the sign of Aquarius on February 17th. Let me pull up the chart really quick and I will show you what I am talking about. So if you're watching on YouTube, you can see the different planets and stuff kind of going on here. So, all right, we're going to move this to the 17th. There we go. So this will be the first eclipse in the sign of Aquarius. And we're going to be having eclipses in Leo and Aquarius for actually the next couple years. So this is kicking off a new story, both for the collective and also for us personally. If you recall my last YouTube video on the full moon in Leo, I talked a lot about Aquarius and how it represents the people and how it really quite literally echoes a lot of the protests and things happening in the United States, protesting fascism, protesting ICE, and these sort of overreach by the federal government. So this eclipse in Leo, this solar eclipse, which is a new moon that we're having in the sign of Aquarius, is very much like, it does kind of feel like the will of the people versus like, leaders sort of trying to dominate or exert their control. It feels like the will of the people is very much a resonant theme throughout 2026. In 2026 in general, there's a lot of focus on air and fire. And it really feels like if we were sort of slipping into complacency, into numbness in 2025 and just like, oh, like we're cooked, like there's nothing we can do, this is the year that people will be pushing back. And so this eclipse collectively puts the focus on the will of the people. And personally for you, that also means that we're going to be having a new set of a new story developing in the Aquarius house and also the Leo house later on this year as well. But this Aquarius house, you might be noticing some more potent, there's maybe going to be some like potent new beginnings, a sense of change, or also kind of just this interruption into the daily kind of rhythm and flow of life. Eclipses tend to shake things up, essentially. So I think the most important thing about this eclipse is the fact that it is going to be squaring the planet Uranus. So it's like, I kind of feel like, oh, if we thought things were a bit nuts already, you know, with all of the Epstein files stuff coming out as well, this eclipse really promises a big twist. Twist, surprises, and also I would say on a personal level, it's like really leaning into change, really getting outside of your comfort zone. On a personal level, this can really this could introduce some kind of wild card. You know, it's like when we have these hard aspects to Uranus, the planet of revelation, freedom, awakenings, you know, we might have like a brilliant idea or, you know, like this kind of light bulb moment of sudden insight. It can certainly be something that can kind of help you shift your perspective. Or if you've always, you know, colored inside the lines or done things in a certain way, this can kind of shake things up in a way that is frankly not comfortable, but can help you make a big change or help you to just kind of break outside your normal kind of paradigm, essentially. And because in traditional astrology, Saturn is actually the ruler of Aquarius. This eclipse is ruled by Saturn applying to a conjunction with Neptune. So there is a feeling of surprising news around this eclipse, and also this feeling of systems that we relied on maybe collapsing and something new being built in its place. I think we're going to see kind of the collapsing first. I also, touching on the Epstein files, the Astrology podcast did a really great episode about how Saturn-Neptune conjunctions, which happen about every 36 years, are also about secret groups. And there has been a very powerful network of wealthy people carrying on horrific abuse, essentially, you know, for years and years and years. And that's kind of getting exposed right now. So there is some sort of shocking twists that we don't see coming, perhaps with this storyline. And also the Epstein file stuff is not going to go away. I think that will keep accelerating throughout the year. On a personal level as well, if you have late degree Taurus, Scorpio, Leo, Aquarius, you know, say around 28, 27 degrees, maybe extending that out to like 24 degrees and maybe early degree mutables. So like 0 to 1 degree Pisces, Sag, Virgo, and Gemini, I think we'll probably be feeling the effects of this eclipse the most on a personal level. And also with a solar eclipse too, there could be some little seed of some new beginning that we don't realize is significant at the time. And then over time, you realize that during this time period that there was some kind of new beginning that was like very much like that was incubated, essentially. And because this solar eclipse is near the North Node, it does have more of a sense of new beginnings kind of going into the future. And the themes related to your Aquarius house, which I'll discuss in your rising sign forecast, is going to be more clear and more evident and more important over the next few years. For example, Aquarius is fourth house for me. So I know that, hey, there's probably something with family, with home, with my, with my root system. And then also my sun in Taurus is pretty late degree in the sign. So there's maybe some kind of shakeup for me, but hopefully in a way that kind of breaks me outside of my comfort zone. I know I have some, anyway, I'm not going to get too much into it, but that's kind of an example. So we have that eclipse first, and then also events, connected to eclipses. We really kind of want to give it a week and a half before, a week and a half after. So we're well within the range, from February 13th to several days after the eclipse for maybe these events connected to this eclipse to show up. So yeah, interesting times we are living in. So let's talk about Saturn conjunct Neptune. So Saturn will be conjunct Neptune. And like I mentioned, this aspect goes exact on February 20th. We kind of were sort of edging that aspect last year in 2025. Saturn and Neptune got really, really close to going exact, but we didn't quite get there. And it's like 2025 was this kind of transition year, and 2026 is when a lot of these really big, important changes are going to start to take place. So we really are going into a new era. Like I mentioned, Saturn-Neptune conjunctions happen about every 36 years. I am turning 37 this year. I was born during a Saturn-Neptune conjunction. If you were born 1988, 1989, as well as whatever 36 years before that time, you might have a Saturn-Neptune conjunction in your chart. So this year may actually be a really pivotal year, especially for those 88, 89 millennials. And I do think it's significant that, talking about Alex Preddy and Renee Good again, they were both 37. Actually, every time I talk about it, I get emotional. They were 37 years old. They had this Saturn-Neptune conjunction in their natal charts, and they're very much in the news. And it's very much, they seem sort of, there are other folks that have been killed by ice this year, Keith Porter being one of them. But the two people who were 37 years old, who were at this age of millennial with the Saturn-Neptune conjunction on their chart, have been a lot more publicized. Definitely the fact that they're both white is part of that, but it's also because it was so public. And I think astrologically, the fact that they're kind of these figureheads or martyred, I really feel like my generation, for whatever reason, it just feels like this year could be a more pivotal time for us. So Saturn-Neptune conjunction is so interesting because, like I mentioned, these two planets are going to be conjunct at the 0 degrees of Aries mark, the beginning of the zodiac. This is sort of where life begins, where we initiate things, where we create things, where there's like a seed of something new. So yes, we're having this one every 36-year aspect, but also it's happening at such a critical degree of the zodiac. We have all these clues from the universe that like we're heading into brand new era. We've never seen anything like this before. And also, so it does give a feeling of new beginnings, but there is this feeling of kind of dissolving and collapsing before we get there. And I also want to remind you too that, Saturn is moving from Saturn and Neptune, because Neptune changed signs a couple weeks ago, and it's going to be there for 8-9 years. Maybe even longer, I can't remember, just a long time. We're moving out of this like very watery energy, Saturn and Neptune both in Saturn and Neptune both in Pisces, and I just feel like there's going to be less emphasis on these things are being done to us. I don't have any control of my life. There is this feeling of taking up the fight. Aries is a sign of the warrior. It's a sign of like resistance. It's like, I'm not going to do what you tell me. So I do feel like there's going to be major themes of that this year, of resisting, of fighting, of fighting the good fight, that kind of thing. And not taking any shit, it's like we're moving into this kind of collective energy connected to that. So anywho, so very, very major aspects, Saturn, Neptune. Yes, it will be going exact around February 20th. I do feel strongly that leaders in charge are going to start to be held accountable. I forget what it was, but it was something like the guillotine was invented either during Saturn and Aries or Neptune and Aries. And yeah, I'm going to leave it at that. But that's definitely dominating the energy of the year, is a Saturn Neptune conjunction. So, okay, couple days later, let's top it off with some war. Woohoo! We have Mercury going retrograde. Mercury is going to go retrograde at 22 degrees of Pisces. It will station direct on on March 20th at 8 degrees of Pisces. That 8 degrees of Pisces does feel important, because that is where the North Node is going to be parked for a while. So there are a couple of things going on with this Mercury retrograde. Mercury is going to be stationing. Mercury, of course, communication, rules, logistics, travel, paperwork, correspondence, tracks, like the facts and details, how you get from point A to point B, how we talk to each other. It is in, it technically can struggle in the sign of Pisces. Mercury being in Pisces is really wonderful for like meditation, messages and dreams, creativity, songs, art. And I think that maybe we'll have some really important pieces of art maybe during this time as well, because Venus is going to be in Pisces too, which I talked about last week, or on my last episode. I do feel like this is a more challenging Mercury retrograde, just because Mercury is technically both fallen and in detriment in the sign of Pisces. So when it comes to things like scheduling, making sure that your email goes to the right person, dotting your I's, crossing your T's, things like tech and travel, I think will have some bumps in the road during this retrograde, because not every retrograde is created equal. So, technically a retrograde is a debility for a planet. It's a little harder for it to function during a retrograde. So I would say be extra careful if you have important documents to attend to, travel plans, maybe build a little bit more time in your schedule for delays, or, having to kind of have things get shuffled around. I'm already noticing things of like, oh, I scheduled a client on the wrong day. I gotta fix that. Ask him to reschedule. Like, just making, forgetting to send an email, like those kinds of things. Just being a little bit more on top of it than usual, because it is more likely that we'll just have a little bit more kind of messy energy connected to it. That being said, like, retrogrades are always good for like solutions and fixing things. So there's like a pre-existing problem for me. Every time I turn left on my steering wheel, I get this crunchy sound. This is the time that I'm like, I need to fix this, because a retrograde is always a good time for reviewing, for going back over things, for finishing up some project that we didn't get to before, or revisiting something from the past. Like, a retrograde is not just negative, bad times, right? There are always positive things, I think, to every single transit. And also, this is a really good transit for like listening for messages in dreams and connecting to our mystical and creative side. So that is definitely a plus as well. And then also, the entire time that it's in Pisces, it is making this trine aspect to Jupiter, which is also its ruler. So there is this sense of goodwill, positivity, like a feeling of like, yeah, I fucked up. Oh, well, we're all it's all gonna be fine. So there is a sense of like maybe some optimism or compassion and understanding, where we're all kind of trying to get it together. Like, I do kind of see, I can see that. But I don't necessarily think that this trine to Jupiter is necessarily going to help Mercury communicate a lot better. I think it's going to feel a little bit like a mental maze. So just keep that in mind as we go through this retrograde. And in general, during eclipse season, you might just want to keep your load lighter and don't overschedule yourself, especially if you have, like placements at, say, like these late degrees of these fixed signs. or even middle degrees of the mutable signs, Virgo, Sagittarius, Pisces, and Gemini, because we're going to have an eclipse there as well in 2 weeks. And during eclipse time, things can come up that we just don't anticipate, or sometimes we can feel drained during eclipses. So it might be a good idea to keep your schedule light or have some flexibility during this time. I also want to mention too, a Mercury retrograde, that's also when stuff can come out that was buried. If you're watching stuff connected to Epstein files, connected to the corrupt Trump administration, this is definitely time to, we could say, grab your popcorn, right? Because there's more drama afoot. So I think that's going to cover it for now. Let's talk about what this might mean for your sign. So these are going to be rising sign forecasts. I will listen for your rising sign or ascendant primarily. Is my window open? Nope, the siren is just loud as hell. There's a fire truck outside. So that would be dependent on an accurate time of birth. You can go calculate that free anywhere on the internet. And also feel free to listen to your sun or moon as well, particularly say like if you're an Aries or something, like you might want to hear that message too, but check the rising sign first. And then, so let's go ahead and let's do these little forecasts. All right. Let's go ahead, and you can tell that my second monitor is like blinding me right now. Let's go ahead and start looking at these rising sign forecasts. Once again, the timestamps are going to be in the comments, as well as the show notes on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you listen. If you're on YouTube, you can just simply click on your sign and it will come up. So here we go. Okay, first of all, Aries rising. Okay, where are we starting with you? The solar eclipse in Aquarius is happening in your 11th house. There's going to be a new story developing about new opportunities, new beginnings, some endings possibly connected to groups, networks that you are affiliated with, your social group. Also, it could be the birth of something new connected to like your hopes, wishes, and goals for the future as well. So this might be a time that you're kind of wiping the slate clean and you're thinking like, okay, like what is it that I'm wanting to manifest? What is it that I'm wanting to create in my life? This could also be like the time of some sort of major shakeup or new maybe social connection or person that would be helpful to you with your career or achieving your goals, or helpful for you in some sort of social setting. Keep in mind, eclipses can be endings as well. And this is connected to Saturn and Saturn and Neptune and Aries in your first house of self-identity and personal, self-image, physical body. You're going into a whole personal new era, essentially. Saturn entering your sign, there may be a sense of responsibility and commitment that you are going to be feeling. Perhaps, over the next few months, it's like, okay, I'm promoted to manager, or like I have like a supervisory role at work, or something where there's more responsibility and commitment. It's also possible too that Saturn going into your first house too can also be about working on health as well. Like, this is not, over the next 2.5 years, this is not the time to play with your health. So if we're partying, if we're like doing recreational drugs and stuff, like this might be the time over the next 2.5 years that you need to use some moderation, because Saturn can indicate a slowdown in health sometimes. And it's not saying, oh, Saturn in your first house, so health equals bad. It's just saying that your health and your body are going to require some maintenance and upkeep. And if you put in the work, you can definitely have a reward with Saturn too. So this might be time that you just maybe feel like a little bit more serious about your commitments. But also, since it's an Aries, you're going to be doing it your way, essentially. You're not maybe going to be doing it someone else's way, right? Because Aries has a sort of pioneering kind of independent quality to it. So there's a new dream being birthed for you. And you may not have a sense of what that is until eclipse season is over, but just know that like, yeah, you're going into a pretty major time. And what else do I want to say about Saturn, Neptune, the solar eclipse? Damn. With this solar eclipse, there might be something connected to finances that, like, hey, maybe there's new opportunity that to make money in a new way. It could be maybe like a maybe like some expense that we didn't see coming, or we're kind of shifting something connected to finances, just because this eclipse is square Uranus in your second house. So just kind of keep that in mind as well. Okay, last thing is Mercury is going retrograde in your 12th house from the 26th of February through March 20th. And that can definitely be, I'd really be paying attention to dreams. Having like some alone time to meditate and reflect is going to help you intuitively feel your way and understand at a gut feeling level what is going on with you during this time of like kind of intense change, essentially. So there's a lot going on. I think part of the key here is to listen to your inner voice, listen to dreams, pull a tarot card, meditate, have some alone time, and have some time for spiritual hygiene and reflection during this time for you. Taurus, this period of time we have a new story developing for career for you. So first of all, this eclipse on the on the 17th, but I remember, keep in mind these energies with eclipses can extend a week and a half on either side of that date. So maybe some new beginning, also possibly ending, connected to career goals, authority figures, public image, how kind of like the world sees you. There's definitely something new coming in for career, maybe going into some sort of next chapter that's going to be coming in for you. It is maybe like a twist that kind of comes out of nowhere, or perhaps you're really kind of feeling like the energy of like, let's fucking go. I'm ready for a change. I'm, like, it's like if you're normally kind of a predictable person, this might kind of stimulate or give you a bit of a jolt as Uranus finishes up in the sign of Taurus. As it is in your own sign. So something new in career, possible shakeup with authority figures, bosses, or maybe how like the world sees you. And it might be a way that is like rebellious, or like rebellious feeling kind of out of nowhere, or just kind of sudden is definitely a possibility. This is also Saturn and Neptune have moved into your 12th house. Saturn's going to be here for the next 2.5 years. Mental and spiritual health and getting that in order is part of your journey over the next couple of years, and is also kind of tied into this eclipse as well. 12th house is sort of our spiritual and psychic baggage, our fears, and also like mental and spiritual health and like wellness stuff, or even chronic long-term health stuff as well. I'm not saying that those things are going to start because of Saturn here, but it's like this could have you just dealing with your psyche in a very kind of in a very real way. I want to say to you too, like, go at your own pace. Taurus, you need to go at your own pace and not feel like you are being hurried by anyone. We are like, as a Taurus sun myself, I'm like, I'm going to always go at my own pace. Don't tell me to hurry up. I'll go slower because of it. So definitely there's this chapter of, I think, mental and spiritual health for you, and taking care of long-term health things connected into this eclipse energy, and also for you over the next 2.5 years. Mercury is going retrograde in your 11th house of friends, of networks and groups. Maybe you are reconnecting to an old friend. Maybe there's some mixed messages, connected to friends in groups right now. So make sure that like in your group chat, like we are like communicating effectively and clearly. Perhaps there's also like a reshuffling or reevaluating of your goals, wishes, and hopes for the future as well. Gemini rising. This eclipse. First of all, let's talk about that. So we have a solar eclipse in your 9th house. So some sort of long-term new story developing in your 9th house. That is going to be connected to higher education, philosophy, beliefs, maybe travel. Like this could be time when you might be considering going back to school, when you are considering, studying something more seriously, studying something like astrology or tarot, because 9th house also rules astrology and like divination systems and spirituality and those kinds of things. It could be that we are considering more like a big move, or like, or traveling or going abroad or something like that. This could also be time to 9th house can be publishing or broadcasting. So this could be like, I really want to get serious about my YouTube channel or my podcast or something like that as well. And this idea, maybe it comes out of nowhere, or there's a feeling of maybe some subconscious prompting, or like maybe we have like a dream about it, or just because it's squaring Uranus in your 12th house of the subconscious and like the shadow. I'm not really sure how to interpret that, to be honest. But just kind of keep that in mind, that there is that kind of sudden jolt, but maybe it's like a dream kind of tells you to do it. So we also have Saturn moving into your 11th house along with Neptune. Something new is being birthed here. Maybe we feel like we're out of sync with our friend group or our social connections. Or we're kind of wiping the slate clean with our hopes, goals, and wishes for the future. Saturn going through 11th house in the next 2.5 years, it might find you like taking the reins or managing some sort of group or network or club that you are connected to, or maybe you're paring down or trimming down your friend group and kind of starting new there. There's a feeling of just kind of working more seriously on, first of all, what is the dream with our goals, wishes, and hopes for the future, and also working more and committing more to that. Just FYI. Mercury is going to go retrograde in your 10th house of career. And again, that's on the February 26th. It's going to be there till March. It's going to be retrograde till March 20th. So Mercury is going to be retrograde for quite a while. This could be like a good time to go back and finish a abandoned project or some kind of work or career related project, or revisiting something from the past connected to career. Obviously, there could be like, I would be careful with like scheduling and like getting your meetings in order and stuff with the Mercury retrograde in your career sector. But this can be a really good time for like, hey, there's this thing I started that might be like more of a creative project or something too, especially because it's Mercury in Pisces, that needs finishing, or that was actually a good idea, but I just kind of abandoned it, right? So, or this could also be connecting to coworkers or colleagues or like authority figures or bosses and mentors from your past as well. So Cancer rising, where are we starting with you? Cancer rising. We have a solar eclipse in the sign of Aquarius on the 17th. Potent new moon, new beginnings, possibly an ending. This is in your 8th house, so this is a little tricky to talk about. Okay, Cancer. So yeah, there's a solar eclipse in the 8th house. There's some new story developing. There's a couple components here. One is shared finances. One is finances and shared finances. So credit cards, loans, investment, retirement accounts, your partner's money, things connected to like mutual aid, student loans, some like new beginnings. So there's some like something new maybe coming in here. It could be that like, hey, maybe a partner, like best case scenario is like, hey, maybe your like partner has like a new source of income. It could be that, it could be something like, hey, I'm starting like a new retirement or like investment account or something like that. Something connected to your financial life. There also could be some kind of ending or shakeup connected to these things as well. The 8th house is also connected to your psychic emotional baggage too. Any like past traumas that have not been dealt with. This might be a time that they kind of more arise. And this could be like, hey, I'm going to therapy. I'm doing something to kind of deal with these things. Also, this is sort of like the intimate stuff in like relationships and how we are connected in relationships. Like 7th house is like partnerships and alliances and, our one-on-one like romantic partnerships. But 8th house is sort of like the deep, intimate stuff of sharing. So there's something with all of these, maybe, that there's some sort of new story that is developing there. So one of those topics are going to be active for you during this eclipse. The financial stuff could be tied into the fact that you may be going into some kind of new era of your career. Because Saturn is ruling this eclipse and it is moving into your 10th house of career for the next 2.5 years. There could be some confusion possibly right now. like, hey, where do I go? Like there's maybe like a dream starting, but we're not exactly sure how to get there possibly, just because Saturn will be with Neptune. But it does feel like you're stepping into something serious, like if we have been, for example, I know that my stepmom is a Cancer rising, and I know that she's retiring. um, and she's gonna start something new. And I remember like looking at a chart last year, and I was like, I bet she retires like around this time, and sure enough, So it's like about like sensing your limitations in career. Like if you've been going, this might be a time that you're like, I need to do something different. I need to pull back. This could also be a time of like, I'm taking on something serious and kind of going into a new era. Either way, maybe I feel like something in your career is changing. Perhaps you're taking on more responsibility and commitment. Perhaps you're going into something new, or perhaps you are just kind of reconfiguring where you need to put your energy, because Saturn can also be like, let's kind of pump. It's like use some restraint and kind of pump the brakes on this too. So something in career is changing. During this time, Mercury is going to be retrograde in your ninth house. This could be about going back and finishing something that you need to learn, or something connected to your education. You could be really focused on spirituality and like divination practices right now. A retrograde can simply be just like a lot of time spent connected to like one kind of subject. So this is like, hey, I want to go back and finish this course. I want to go back and revisit this travel plan. If you are traveling abroad right now, or if you're making kind of long distance travel plans, just be a little more cautious, build some time into your schedule, just because a retrograde can be a little tricky as far as technical correspondence, making travel plans kinds of things. Also, ninth house traditionally connected to dreams and divination. Pisces is here. This would be, if you're like, hey, where do I go in life? This is a really good time to connect with your guides, connect with your angels, pull a tarot card, get a reading. Like, this is kind of the time to get some insight, frankly. Whether that's coming from yourself or through, another reader or something. Leo, all right, what is going on with you? So, definitely some stuff going on with partnership. There's a new story connected to partnership and relationships with the solar eclipse in your seventh house. So this is so there's some new era connected to partnership and relationships. This could be the time that like, hey, we weren't ready for so eclipses can be beginnings and they can also be endings. So something is like or this could go from like, hey, I've been seeing this person for a long time, or like kind of long-term committed. This could be like a time too where it's like discussions of marriage, or like this long-term commitment, or making some kind of shakeup in that part of your life. It could also connect to career for you as well, as this is squaring Uranus in your 10th house of career here. So maybe there's a connection between like relationships and career with this eclipse, or there is like a change in a relationship, or some relationship kind of coming out of nowhere can help you in career, or vice versa. But yeah, definitely the solar eclipse is happening in an angular part of your chart. And when we have stuff going on in the angles, these are like big pillars of our lives, right? So it could be that you're feeling this in more than one area. So it could be like, yes, relationships, but also self-identity and home, and also career, right? But I definitely feel like this could be, if you've been like looking for a relationship, I kind of wonder if 2026 could be the year that brings that for you. Maybe not right away, but this eclipse is like setting the stage and planting the seed for something. So, because I have a friend who's a Leo rising, and she's like, I'm trying to meet men and blah. And I was just like, give it a minute. Especially when Jupiter goes into Leo this summer, relationships feel like they're going to really be kind of popping off. But I just feel this could be like the time of like clearing relationships that don't serve you out of your life, and also welcoming in the new with this eclipse. So Saturn is going into your ninth house, Leo rising. This is time that you're maybe very serious about pursuing some kind of educational program, or travel, or there's extra work and delays around those things, but like the work could be worth it. or that you're deciding to like really put the work and effort into maybe like a broadcasting thing or a podcast or something like that. It could be that we're kind of a little confused on these matters for a little while too, because Saturn will be conjunct Neptune here. So if we're feeling a little lost, or like where are we going at these things, or with spirituality, like what do we believe anymore, it'll become more clear. But this conjunction, there's something new that's being birthed, but it just may be a bit confusing for a minute. But we might feel some special pull to spirituality, travel, divination, publishing, broadcasting, learning, these topics. Mercury will be retrograde in your 8th house. This is kind of time when like to review, you might be like reviewing something financial, right? Like, hey, like I want to make sure that my estate's good, that my bank accounts are like doing like the right thing, that I'm looking at where my investments are being allocated, or maybe there's a little like just question marks around those things that you're having to go back and deal with, or like refinancing or loans or things like that. Maybe something connected to an inheritance, or your partner's money could be coming up here as well. I will say, if we are making any changes, maybe have someone else look at them too, because Mercury and Pisces can be a bit confused, frankly, connected to these things. So just make sure that we are clear-eyed about what we're getting into, and that maybe we have a second pair of eyes look at these things as well. Virgo rising. We have a solar eclipse in your 6th house. So this is, there's something new coming in, something new or an ending. It can be an ending, but I think because it's an eclipse on the north node, it can be more something new or a beginning connected to work routines, how you work, what your work routine looks like, your grind, coworkers, who works for you. So if you're looking for a new job, even if you're not looking for a new job, you may be looking for one after this eclipse, or that you make, or that you're wanting to make some kind of sudden change, or there's some kind of change connected to job with this eclipse. Maybe like a coworker leaves, or you have a new boss or something, or you're assigned to a different role or something like that. But there is a new story developing with this part of your chart in general over the next couple of years. And also, like, like this is I'm kind of saying, like, if you've been unemployed for a while, maybe this is time when like, hey, some unexpected opportunity comes in, or we find some unexpected way of working. This is also like a new stage, connected to your health. It could be, having sudden information connected to health, like, hey, I've been looking for an answer, and it's kind of coming in suddenly. It wasn't what I expected, but here we go. Because 6th house can be something connected to physical health and like health routines and wellness. So it could be something new connected to that as well. And we have Saturn moving into your 8th house for the next 2.5 years. That's an interesting transit. Definitely, it's kind of like, hey, if your finances are all over the place, this might be time that you're going to start to get really organized and really focus on getting that cleared up. Maybe working hard on like reestablishing credit, or building your credit, or things like that. This also could be like, hey, we're really needing to work on things connected to intimacy and these sort of deep emotions, or that we are really working on clearing any sort of old psychological baggage here. There's maybe a little confusion with Saturn conjunct Neptune in this part of your chart for a little while. Just keep that in mind. This eclipse season feels just kind of all over the place, so don't expect perfect clarity right away, right? Mercury is also going to go retrograde in your 7th house of partnership. Maybe we are reconnecting with old this could literally be an ex coming back, right? This could also be, hey, I've lost touch with one of my best friends over the years, or we are reconnecting. And it just feels like relationships, our one-on-one relationships, just feels a little bit busier. Or we're getting the chance to review or revisit something from the past. Perhaps it's something between you and a partner. It's like, hey, that conversation that we really need to have, let's have it now. Like, let's speak heart to heart. And again, like Mercury in Pisces is very much like an intuitive kind of, I think, heartfelt energy. So like, this is time to connect with people like on a soul level. But like revisiting, reviewing things connected to relationship and relationship patterns for you. Rising. Oh, these headphones are not even on. So why are they on? Okay, sorry. I'm like losing it. I'm really tired today, but we're like doing this anyway. So What is going on? Okay, so your solar eclipse for you is happening in the fifth house. There's a new story, a new narrative connected to your creativity, your creative projects, things that you're giving birth to. When I say that, does not have to be artistic. It is anything that you create, any projects that you have. There could be some sort of new project that you're working on. There's maybe a new story or narrative connected to children or pregnancy. Perhaps that your children are kind of going into a new era of life. Perhaps you're becoming an empty nester. Fifth house is certainly romance. It's love. Maybe you're going into a new era connected to a romantic relationship. Maybe, I don't feel I don't know how likely it is necessarily that we meet the love of our life around this eclipse. But if you're single, this could be planting the seed or clearing the way for some profound relationship to enter your life this year. Eclipses can often, clear the decks or clear away what doesn't serve as well. It's not necessarily just a new beginning, it's maybe an ending here. So perhaps there's been a situationship or something, or and maybe with this eclipse, it's no, I want something more, right? So it could be clearing that away. But there's something connected to creativity. I would maybe be working with the sacral chakra, because that's connected to creativity, birth, sexuality, sensuality, maybe around this eclipse, because just because fifth house can relate to a lot of the topics of that chakra. But so there's a new narrative coming in with those things, and also just your passions too, deciding maybe that we're not passionate about this thing that we were, and something else that you're passionate about kind of comes in. So I will say maybe there is again, in this eclipse does come with a twist, or some kind of surprise, and that could be connected to your intimate relationships. There could be a financial thing. It's something fun that we were doing, we're finding out it costs more or costs less than we thought. Just kind of keep that in mind. But there's new narrative connected to these fifth house topics for you. So there's also relationships for you, I think, over the next 2.5 years. There's not a lot of frivolity or frivolous energy because Saturn is entering your seventh house. So this is maybe a time period where you're going to be working on, it's either that maybe we're getting into a committed relationship that stands the test of time, or it's that, hey, we're working on our own relationship stuff, our own relationship dynamics. It could be that we enter into a partnership with someone older, someone who has more experience. Or perhaps there's some sort of maybe it's between you and a person who's long distance. You're kind of working through some, delays about being together. There's just something about that you have to work a little harder to be together, but Saturn is going to say well, how bad do you want it? I will say if there's already issues in a relationship, Saturn going through this house can kind of exacerbate them. So it can be kind of a make it or break it time for relationships as well. And then also we do have Neptune here. So, there's maybe things are a little confusing for the moment connected to relationships too, possibly. And also this could be business relationships, or one-on-one, any kind of one-on-one relationships. You're really going to be focusing, and that's kind of where the work is going to be for you. But again, doesn't have to be a negative thing. It could be committed relationship energy too, right? So Mercury is going to go retrograde through your sixth house from February 26th through March 20th. And this is, I'm going to say hey, if you're self-employed, make sure that it's really paying attention to your schedule. Do not overbook yourself. So, these scheduling or communication mishaps are more likely to be around connected to the workplace. It could be a good time to go back and finish a previous work project or reorganize, your life a little bit, clean out the closet. This could also be too hey, going back and revisiting some kind of health matter, or I kind of need to do some more cardio at the gym, or or something that hey, this thing has been nagging me. I probably should go get checked up about something. Hey, I've been having this cough for a little bit. Let's go see what that is. It's kind of this Mercury in retrograde. That's this Mercury retrograde through your sixth house. Scorpio rising. The solar eclipse is going to be in Aquarius, so that's going to be around the 17th. That is some sort of shakeup possibly a new beginning, possibly an ending connected to your family. This could be connected to parents, to your home, perhaps. And, and again, this is the start of like a longer term narrative, so perhaps we start just having conversations about like, hey, do we like where we live, or we thinking about moving somewhere else? It's like a long-term process. There could be some sort of surprising connection between home and relationships. Perhaps it's like, hey, you have a conversation with your partner, and it's like, I think it's time we think about like living together. Maybe it comes out of kind of nowhere or something. But just know that like home stuff, your roots, your family, that does feel like that's going to be going through some pretty profound changes over the next few years. Because Pluto is in that part of your chart. We're going to start having eclipses there. It's going to really focus on that. So that's kind of setting the stage for some sweeping changes in that part of your life. This would also be a good time spiritually too, if you're interested in connecting to ancestors or doing ancestor work and healing. That can definitely be valuable during this time as well. There also just might be some surprising news connected to like a parent, or just connected to like where you're from, or family. So Saturn has moved into your 6th house. I really want you to pay attention and work on your health and your physical body and take your health very seriously over the next couple of years. This is not the time to be pushing yourself and grinding, and just like, you need to be getting enough rest, drinking enough water. Just because Saturn going through your 6 can make those things more serious, or it can just be like, hey, it's really time to pay attention to those things. You also could be just really deciding on how you want to work and what your work looks like. Perhaps I think you're going into kind of a new era on your work routines and how you kind of get through your to-do list every day. Because Saturn is going through your 6th house. So this is kind of a new cycle connected to your daily work, how you work, what your employment looks like. This could, maybe be a little bit confusing for a minute because Saturn is conjunct Neptune here. So that's why I was just like, you're going to need a little bit extra rest. Like, just make sure that you're getting a little bit extra rest. But there is a feeling of like, I'm going to work the way I want to, and I want to establish the routines the way that I want them to, because it's in the sign of Aries. But yeah, I feel like you're going into a new era with work. It'll be interesting, the ones of you that are self-employed, what that looks like too, because it's like, if you've been used to doing, it's like, however it is that you grind, that you take care, that you work, I think that you're going to be going about it a different way, essentially. And I want you to do it in a way that's sustainable. Mercury is going to be retrograde through your 5th house. This could be revisiting some creative project, having conversations around sex life, romantic life, revisiting a romantic partner from the past. Also, it could be some extra special focus on your children at this time, or, the concept of having children. This could be a creative time for you too. I think this could be a very creative time. So make sure that you maybe have a little time set aside to play or be creative, because it's going to be alongside Venus in Pisces. So this can be a pretty romantic time, even though we have, all this kind of stuff in the world going on. So if you have a partner right now, or you're dating, could be an extra juicy time to be connecting with someone. Sagittarius rising. The eclipse is going to be in your 3rd house. So this is a new narrative, a new beginning, possibly an ending here as well. Connected to 3rd house is interesting because it's your local environment, it's your community, it's your neighborhood, it's like the area where you live. So maybe changes there. It could be like, oh, unexpected construction on my street. Like, that's 3rd house. Or like, oh my God, my neighbor who's my neighbor who we're like besties with, announcing that they're moving. We're getting a new neighbor. It could be news connected to siblings as well. This is also like a new cycle, a new narrative occurring in this part of the chart. So it could also be too, like, I'm learning something new. I'm taking a new course. There's something maybe connected to some travel here as well. Maybe not necessarily like long distance travel, but it could just be something around like short distance travel. But sometimes I will see like certifications or studying or learning or taking a course here, or just something new with like engaging with your community or your siblings, but also like your mind. There's just a lot to the 3rd house. So something new there. And there's going to be a lot connected to education, travel, beliefs, learning, study, the mind over the next couple of years for you, and especially actually this summer, because we're going to have eclipses in Leo as well as Jupiter moving into that part of your chart. So both of these parts of your chart are going to be kind of pinged. I do really want to pay special attention to the mind, though. Like, I just feel like you could be learning something very significant over the next couple of years that like really changes your life, just because Pluto is going to be there, the planet of transformation. Saturn is going to go into your 5th house. You know, it's sort of like things like romance and creativity have a more serious tone to them that requires more commitment. It's like, okay, I'm getting serious about my art. Or, you know, maybe there's going to be a little bit of delays with like dating and relationships. Or maybe that you're like, I'm sick of just meeting people at the bars. I really, really want to meet someone and spend time nurturing an actual relationship. It could be a little time where maybe children, that we're really putting energy into effort into having them, or having to work on fertility or something. With our children that we already have, it could be that maybe, you know, it could be like a little bit, maybe more of like a challenging time, or just kind of figuring how to deal with like some new needs of theirs, or maybe they're going through some transitions and just kind of figuring out how to deal with that, just because Saturn can represent delays and challenges. But, you know, in the end, it can be fruitful. And again, these areas might be a little bit confusing for a little bit, because Neptune will be with Saturn here in this part of the chart as well. Mercury is going to go retrograde in your 4th house. So perhaps there's something comes up with the home, with the family, about revisiting something connected to the home, or like, oh, I thought I fixed that. We have to go back and do that. Or like, maybe reconnecting with a family member from the past, or just there's an extra special focus on home and family, and like reviewing coming in with this Mercury in Pisces transit from February 26th to March 20th. Okay, Capricorn rising. The solar eclipse in Aquarius on the 17th. New beginnings, new narrative, maybe an ending connected to finances, how you earn a living, your income, your assets, things, physical things that support you in this life. And so that's, you know, this could be a time when it's like as simple as like, I'm starting a savings account, actually getting real about my financial health, you know, paying down some old debts, or that I want to earn, like I want a side gig, I want to earn more money on the side. We could be working on, I just feel like there's something maybe kind of profound or significant with you and your resources. Because Pluto is in this part of your chart for the next several years, and it's going to be highlighted by the fact that we're going to have eclipses going on in this part of your chart. Jupiter will be moving into your 8th house, which is also connected to finances later this year. So it could be setting the stage now, or planting the seeds now for like more financial, like reorganization or abundance, like later this year. So I feel like you maybe start like planting something. There's a seed being planted now. With this eclipse, it could be maybe that, hey, perhaps we are making money from we're thinking of doing something that's like a hobby, or that's like creative or fun that turns into money somehow. Or there's something about maybe a financial thing and like a creative thing. Like I don't know quite how to put that, but that's just because the solar eclipse is going to be square Uranus in the 5th house. So, you know, it's possible right now if you're thinking like side gigs, some other kind of income, or perhaps it's finding out that something involving children is going to be kind of expensive too, possibly as well. It's like, hey, I have a field trip, or I have this trip, we're going international, and it's going to cost $2,000 or something like that. It's also possible too. But there is something connected to your finances, that there's some sort of new beginning coming in with this eclipse, but there is like a twist, or there is something kind of sudden about it. Also, I feel like you're going to be really kind of focused on like security, building a home, parental responsibilities, more security at home, because Saturn is going to be moving into the 4th house of home and family. So it could be like, I have to take extra care of parents, or the experience of being a parent, or that we're working on renovating and rebuilding our home, working on, you know, the literal foundation of our house or house things. It could also be personal, that you're sort of working on, kind of what's going on sort of like internally for you. Like sometimes Saturn, like through the fourth, according to Robert Hand, can be like therapy, right? So just I do kind of feel like we're working on roots in family and home, and perhaps kind of what's going on in our internal lives. And that transit that I'm talking about now, that's kind of over the next 2.5 years. So there is a feeling of making my root chakra system, my home, more secure, essentially, and or there's more attention being paid to that, even though it might be confusing for a little bit too, because Saturn will be conjunct Neptune in that part of the chart for a little while. Mercury is going to be retrograde in the third house. This is kind of the classic Mercury retrograde transit for you. Correspondence, tech, emails, letters, maybe not reaching the right person, or making sure that that you're not CCing the wrong person, just because third house is communications, it's your daily routines and correspondence. It could be something coming up with neighbors or local community, or like, oh, I have to take a different route to work for a little bit, something's up with my car, those kinds of things. Very kind of classic Mercury retrograde kind of energy for you. I will say it is a good time to review, to go back, and it's like, oh, I forgot to send this email months ago, I need to talk to this person. It's like, because retrogrades can be good for finding solutions for things that have been like existing issues. And I just want to say too, like, I don't know who this is for, but it's a feeling I'm getting of like communicating with an open heart, because there is a sense of optimism and goodwill with this transit, because Mercury will be trine Jupiter. So it's like this can be a time for open-hearted dialogue, or kind of going back and be like, hey, we've had a communication issue, especially with like relationship stuff, because it is trine Jupiter in your seventh house of relationships. And it's like open-hearted compassion can kind of, I think, help fix and solve things during this transit. Aquarius rising. This is okay, this is a big one for you. You're really setting the stage for like a new personal era, new era. This eclipse is happening in the first house. There's something connected to who you are on a deep level, how you approach your life, your personal narrative and story. It could be time that you're feeling like you want to express yourself differently. You want to wear different clothes. You want to wear your hair differently. In a feeling of like, I don't want to do what is expected of me, could be coming in with this, because it is square to Uranus. Or there's maybe a twist involving family where you're living in home that's also connected to this. So just because Uranus is in your fourth house of home and family, which is square this eclipse. And also like, it's like there's just like a new sense of self and identity coming in for you. This is also a time, sometimes eclipses can sweep things away. There can be an ending, but whatever that ending is, it's, for your highest good, even though it might be kind of sudden or kind of unexpected or out of nowhere. Or maybe it's you who is just not doesn't want to be predictable right now. This also could be a time of like just needing to pay attention to health and body as well. And also I would say get some extra rest during this eclipse. Eclipses can be kind of draining. So just kind of be cautious about that. Make sure that you're staying hydrated and that you are taking care of yourself. There is maybe something, so Saturn is going to go into your third house, which rules this eclipse technically. Going through your third house over the next 2.5 years, there's a couple things going on here possibly. One is that you may want to streamline, organize your daily life and daily routines. This is like adhering to a schedule, getting more into a rhythm, something new in your daily routines, like daily meditating, daily journaling, exercising in the morning. Because this transit is going to want to sort of clear your head, because the third house can also be the mind and how you think. So it's sort of like we're trying to clear the mind. This is sort of like you might have like a more serious tone to, well, you're Aquarius, so you might have a serious tone to a lot of stuff, but like Saturn can be sort of sobering, serious energy. So like it could be that you're committing to a course of study, or that like it's just like getting like organizing your thoughts, like clearing your mind, like paying attention to your thoughts. Like, how are your thoughts saying, hey, you suck and you're dumb? It's like changing your thought patterns is something kind of important about this energy. and getting a handle on those things. But it can also be new things like new like certifications or new courses of study, really committing to some sort of course of study or learning something. It can be that you're committed to writing a book or putting your words into written form or starting a podcast or something too, could also be part of this transit. But there's a serious tone to all of that. So Mercury is going to be retrograde in your second house of finances from February 26th through March 20th. This would be a time to, perhaps we're just kind of like reviewing our finances. We're like, oh, why the hell am I paying for a subscription that I never use? It could be an excellent use of this energy. If you are making like big financial decisions right now, I at least would have some sort of neutral advisor who has your highest benefit in mind to look at it for you, just because Mercury is not the clearest in Pisces. So I would be wary of big purchases during this time or big financial decisions. At least have someone like a third party like look at that for you. But it could be, again, a good use of this energy is like, why are we paying for that? That's dumb, or rethinking about how much you're worth and how much you need to get paid, essentially. So finally, we have Pisces rising. So Pisces, for you, the solar eclipse in Aquarius is interesting because it's in your 12th house. It's about the hidden, what is hidden to you, your mental and spiritual health, how you might self undo. Sometimes we can be our own worst enemy, and this can be like, am I my own worst enemy? Is there something that I need to pay attention to here? This is going to call you more, I think, internally and really focusing on your inner world or things that you are not seeing. This could be that you're starting to work on a project that's more like behind the scenes. But whatever it is, it just feels like a very deep, internal, private thing. Or something is occurring behind the scenes right now. And this could also just be like, I'm starting a therapy journey, like I'm doing shadow work. I am connecting more to meditation. I want to say like, I feel reflective energy with this eclipse. And keep in mind, this is part of a new narrative or part of a new story that is going to be occurring across these houses that rule health for you, mental, spiritual health, physical health with the Leo stuff, and also work. I could see work expanding for you when Jupiter moves into your 6th house at the end of June this year. But there definitely feels like if we've been ignoring the psyche, this could be just connecting to spirituality, getting more in tune with ourselves. Saturn is going to move into your 2nd house of money and finances. This could be like, I'm getting serious about my savings account. I'm working on my financial health. A reorganization, restructuring connected to these things, or really kind of building our assets. Because like this could start out as like, I feel like I'm financially kind of struggling. How do I fix it? So I would say over the next 2.5 years, like it's definitely time to kind of rein in spending, or like have a strategy, make sure you're being a little conservative and putting some money in your savings account, because I could see financial health being a big topic for you. Or really trying to achieve financial independence could be very top of mind for you, Pisces. Mercury is going to go retrograde in your sign. So that is an interesting one. For you, the experience of seeing things that you didn't see before, reviewing things, going back over sort of unfinished business, maybe in your relationships, and kind of like the feeling of like redoing things kind of in your life a little bit. It's like, why do I always do this thing? I should really be looking over here, or really kind of considering like, hey, does this sense of identity that I have kind of fit me anymore? Like there's like a little bit of like a life overhaul, and just like the sense of just, I feel like Mercury retrograde kind of revealing some things to you that you previously just didn't see before, is kind of how I take this energy. And all the while, that Mercury in Pisces is going to be talking to Jupiter in Cancer in your 5th house. There's clarity to be found, I think, in like creative self-expression, in pursuing a hobby and connecting to your creativity and connecting with children, playing, connecting to romance and sexual energy that might actually create more clarity for you. just because Mercury is having a nice conversation with Jupiter, who's ruling that Mercury. There's reception there. And Jupiter is moving through that fifth house of creativity, children, romance. So it's like finding clarity through deep insights, gut feelings, sudden knowings. But it's like making sure that you have time to kind of play and meditate. I think it's sort of like the key to this transit here. Yeah, you have some interesting transits. All right. Okay, so that is all she wrote for this podcast 2.5 hours later. So I hope you guys liked this. I hope that it was helpful. Make sure that you subscribe to the channel. Tell your friends. Consider, if you're needing deeper insight, consider booking a session with me as well. I have room at the end of the month. And I have some different options as well. Just click on the link in bio. That'll have my current list of like if I have any specials going on. My website sometimes is not updated. Anyway, I'll talk to you guys soon. Thanks again for listening. Good luck out there, and make sure you slow down, take a breath during this energy. Okay. All right. Talk to you soon.